super fast Harley. And it's been nothing but CJ Stroud highlights. I rewatched the highlights from the Texans versus Tampa Bay game at least 20 times by now. I mean, they even have the 40-minute version of the last couple of minutes. I've seen that a couple of times too. I think we've all become Stroud boys.
Yeah.
And guys, we want to welcome everyone to another episode of Believe in the Houston Texans. I am one part of your show, Ruben Calvillo, joined by my guy, Harley Dugan. And this episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling, and college basketball is ready to go as well. Bet Online remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests.
NFL, college football, UFC, and NHL are in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops, betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to the BetOnline today and remember to use our promo code BLEAV, Believe, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And guys, before I bring him in, I want to let you know we have fire guests for y'all, and that is courtesy of Believe in the Houston Texans. We have former Ohio State Buckeye, former Oakland Raider, Miami Dolphin, Chimdi Chekwa. Thank you so much for being a part of today's episode. It is an honor to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, y'all. How y'all doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Good,
How about
man.
yourself?
This is the most happiest we've been in a very long time as Texans fans. And that is because of CJ Stroud. Now, first question I need to ask you. One, how's it going? And also, does CJ Stroud deserve these early MVP conversations that he is getting?
I mean, if he's playing like it, he deserves it, man. I think he's way ahead of schedule, as everybody would imagine. I always felt that he was the best player in college football. And I know, at that time, Caleb Williams was doing his thing. Caleb Williams is a great talent. But to me, CJ had a poise and an ability to play within the system and continue to get better. And I didn't know how good he could continue to get, but I know he was going to continue to get better just because of his approach to the game and his understanding of the game. So I'm just happy that he is where he is. One thing I would caution everybody is that defenses catch up to rookies.
Mm-hmm.
So they always have to take another jump in year two. So that's just the reality of the NFL.
Man, Chimdi, it's nice to have you on, man. The question for me is, Ruben's asking about MVP. The national media heads, Richard Sherman being one of them on Undisputed, posed the question, is CJ Stroud a top 10 quarterback? What are your thoughts behind that?
I mean, he's playing like a top 10 quarterback. And I mentioned the fact that, defenses start to catch up. One thing about rookies who come in and they're really, really good, there's no film on them really at the NFL level. So you start to understand the tendencies. The strength of CJ is that a lot of what he gets isn't outside of the plan. Like, it's not outside of the system. So it's when you have the full system and how the offense is supposed to run behind you, then it becomes you just executing what the coach is trying to do. And CJ is just able to decipher and figure things out. So it's not like he has to break the pocket and scramble and do all these other things to be effective. So he'll be able to continue to evolve as the offense and the offensive coordinator continues to evolve the offense around him. So, it's a real question. I think right now he's playing like a top 10 quarterback. And the question is, can he continue to do so?
Another question for you. Once the draft was started and going, a lot of people were having the conversations about Bryce Young being QB1, CJ being QB2, but did you think that CJ Stroud deserved to be the first quarterback off the board? Was he your number one guy?
He was my number one guy. Now I'm an Ohio State, alumni, All-American at Ohio State. I watched every single Ohio State game 2, 3, 4, 5 times, right? So I knew a lot more about CJ than I did about Bryce. Now I watched Bryce play. I didn't think he was as good as CJ, and I didn't know how much of that was my bias versus the true comparison. Because see, CJ got punished at Ohio State for the defense not playing up to the same level as Alabama's defense. So they lost games that were in closer games, and opposing teams could play a certain way because they weren't just trying to beat CJ in that offense. They were trying to just outplay the defense on the other side too. And then the other part of it, Bryce Young is probably a better scrambler than CJ is. And we fall in love nowadays with the ability to run and move in the pocket, which is a strength. But the reality is when it comes down to being able to throw the ball down the field and throw it accurately, which to me is the biggest strength that a quarterback can have. It's accuracy, first level, second level, deep throws. And CJ, compared to anybody in college football, was the best at that specifically. So his thing was going to have to be, can he translate that to the NFL, and can he continue to improve in his ability to process and deliver the ball where it needs to be?
We talk about CJ Stroud in the college, his collegiate career. We go straight to the Georgia game. Pat McAfee on his show had mentioned they were there on the sidelines watching the game. Pat McAfee immediately went, yeah, CJ Stroud, that guy's an NFL Sunday quarterback. Was that the game? It doesn't sound like it, but was that the game for you as well, or what was it prior to that?
No, it wasn't that. That wasn't the game, and that is something that it bothered me, throughout the season, because I could see it since the first. So for me, it was his first game. It was a game that a lot of Buckeye fans would say he struggled in. It was playing against Minnesota on the road as a Ohio State quarterback. This is his first game in college football, right? And he stepped in, and he still had that same level of poise. Now, he missed some throws. They were a bit off, but if you watch him, it's like, oh, he's going to get better at that. And if he can continue to improve within the system, like he can do, he was going to be good. And then in his press conferences, he's a very transparent individual. So when he's struggling, if you just watch his press conference, he'll say what he's struggling on. He'll say where he needs to improve. He'll say where he missed. And that's what impressed me about CJ, is that it's not only that he made some mistakes, but he knows exactly where those mistakes are. And then you watch in the next game, comes back and plays against Oregon, which we lost that game at Ohio State, but it was all because of the defense. It was literally all because of the defense. He got a lot of the blame, but he had an amazing game. But a lot of the stuff that he mentioned that he struggled at, you saw him correct it in that next game. So it's that ability to continue to grow and to continue to grow with that precision that he had that showed me that he was that guy. Now, the Georgia game, everybody else saw it in the Georgia game, but the thing about the Georgia game is that you gave Ryan Day a couple of weeks to prepare for that defense. It's not in the middle of the season. So now Ryan Day opens up the offense. He knows his defense is struggling, so he gets really aggressive. So, yeah, you got to see CJ at his best. But, I was able to see that, he was going to be that type of player. Now, I don't know about this type of player, but he definitely was at the top of the top in college football.
You already have some people saying that CJ Stroud is already the best quarterback that Ohio State has ever produced in the NFL. Why is that? Why is it so hard for other Ohio State quarterbacks to find success in the NFL?
I don't know that it is. I think Ohio State is a victim of their own success, right? Because one of the other top teams in the Big Ten is Michigan. What Michigan quarterback has? I mean, Tom Brady. Tom Brady played 20 years. Who followed him? So it's the fact that they get high draft picks, and then a lot of guys don't live up to the I guess what their expectation. But they also hadn't had that many years in the NFL to show it. Dwayne Haskins, RIP Dwayne Haskins, he passed early. He still has some time to continue to develop. Justin Fields is struggling now. Justin Fields is a quarterback who a lot of gifts, talent. He has a lot of gifts. He has every gift that a quarterback needs: physically, athletically, arm strength, everything. The difference between Fields and Stroud is able to, I think, process things a lot quicker and play within the system. Justin, who Ohio State fans probably love more than they did C.J. Stroud, a lot of what he didn't come within, the timing and the within the system and within how things were supposed to happen. A lot of that stuff, he broke the pocket here and there. He held onto the ball a little bit long. So he still has an opportunity to improve in those areas. But I think CJ, just if you go back to his high school tape and then just even before college, he's just always been a guy who can throw an accurate pass. Mm-hmm. And that gift just makes everything easier for him. And he understands that he has it and he's confident in it. So all the struggles and all the challenges that he knows he can go back to being a very, very accurate quarterback. So he has a gift, man. And I think I just think he's probably, to be honest, he's probably the most talented guy when it comes down to it.
Chimdi, down here in H-Town, man, it's been rough for the quarterback position.
Yeah.
We thought we had one. It went away. And so we move on from that because we don't like to talk about that.
Yeah.
It's a black eye for us. But C.J. Stroud so far, man, only one interception in his rookie career. And his awareness is something that every former pro athlete that's looking at the film continues to just be astonished by. Is this something that y'all were accustomed to at Ohio State, the ability to just not make mistakes? Because we're not used to that here.
Yeah. So, I don't think Ohio State look, Ohio State fans are spoiled. So we haven't gone through the challenges that the Texans have gone through, right? So we didn't really appreciate it. We went from we had Joe Burrow transferred, right? Dwayne Haskins, who was a top 5 pick, Justin Fields, who was a top 5 pick, to CJ. So CJ had high expectations coming in. But what I noticed from him, and he has this famous quote that pissed off a lot of Ohio State fans, because people kept asking him, why don't you run? Like, there's space sometimes for you to run. Why don't you run? And he's like, I'm not a running back. If we want to run the ball, I hand the ball off, right? And that's because he's a very transparent individual. In his mind, he's so confident in his ability to find the open guy and deliver that football accurate that even if there was 10 yards in front of him to run, he's still sitting in the pocket because he's like, I could do it better at just throwing the ball. And there was some downside to it. He turned down some opportunities to gain a first down to show with his legs. But the upside to it is that his confidence allows him to continue to improve in those areas, right? Which really translates to the NFL. We watched Caleb Williams in college, and Caleb Williams is an amazing talent. I've seen him turn down so many first downs that are within the timing and the system of the play, and turn around and run back and forth, and make a play. But that's not, let's be honest, that's not NFL football. That's something you can do here and there when things break down, but you can't do that consistently play after play. So that doesn't translate well. Now he can get that under control after he transitions and be a little bit more like Mahomes, who plays within the system until he needs to break the pocket. But CJ has always been the player who's been able to be very precise within the play, and it's very reminiscent of like a Tom Brady, right? A Tom Brady who on time, very accurate, consistent, with precision over and over and over and over again. And when you do that, and you can get in that zone, and you could keep getting better within that, you get more and more and more precise. And then for the offensive coordinator, this is the luxury of the offensive coordinator. Now he can create plays that he knows that he has this guy who can operate this system with so much precision, and collectively you can continue to improve over and over again. So when I say CJ has to take another step from an improvement standpoint, it's a little bit easier for him because he's operating within the system. So really it's his coordinator that has to make sure that he continues to improve.
You bring up Tom Brady. He had his Brady moment on Sunday, 46 seconds, 75 yards, game-winning touchdown to rookie wide receiver Tank Dell. What was your reaction to that, man? Because to us, it just adds on to the legend of C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, so I've been one of CJ's biggest supporters. We had there was some rocky games, Michigan game we lost at Ohio State, and there was a lot of CJ criticism. And that's when I vocalized my support the loudest. So because of that, I followed almost everything that he's done so far in the NFL. But during that, I was watching that game. I had to go vote because I was about to leave town or whatever. So I had it on my phone, and when I got to the voting booth, it was the last drive was coming up, and I had to go in there and vote. But I just kept it on my phone anyway. I don't know if that was allowed or not. But I was able to see that play, man. And the funny thing is, I had so much confidence that he was going to be able to drive down and make the play. And it's kind of crazy to think. It's kind of crazy to even think that after, because I was looking back and I was thinking, why was I so confident that this rookie quarterback was able to do it? But he's always carried this level of poise, and he's always carried that level of confidence in himself, which always makes me confident in him and his ability. So, to me, it's reminiscent of Tom Brady. There's a lot of comparisons people throw out there, and they typically don't compare a black quarterback to Tom Brady just because, they look different. But the way he plays is very reminiscent to me of Tom Brady, and obviously it's a long way to go to get to the level that Brady got to. But at least at this point in his career as a rookie, that's the first connection that comes to mind.
That's a lot of fun to hear. That is an exciting thought there. So you said you've watched all of Ohio State's games. Since CJ Stroud has got drafted here, have you watched all of the Houston Texans games?
I haven't watched all of the Houston Texans games. I've watched them here and there. I've tried to pull them up if I wasn't doing something else, but not all of them, but some of them, yeah.
So with that, I wanted to know, did you know that you had so many former and current Houston Texans connections?
Who, me personally?
Yes. It's fantastic to think about going through your career. So I was looking through it and doing the research here. 2012, when you were in Oakland, in that staff, you had rest in peace Greg Knapp, who was your quarterback's coach. He was here with Gary Kubiak when DeMeco Ryans was a player here. Frank Pollock, who was, I believe, an assistant offensive lines coach there, who was also, or might have been the O-lines coach there, but he was an assistant here in Houston when DeMeco was a player. There's a lot of connections.
Yep.
Johnny Holland was the linebackers coach here in Houston. DeMeco was a player, also followed him when he was with the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan. And into this current day, like I went back to 2016 in Miami with you. Danny Barrett was there with you. He was the running backs coach now with the Texans right now. Shane Day, who is a senior offensive assistant now with the Texans. Yeah. Matt Burke, who is your linebackers coach. Yeah. He's our defensive coordinator. You're smiling right now. Everyone has a great Matt Burke story. Do you have one for us?
I don't personally have that. Not that comes to mind off the top of my head. No.
The last one, your DB's coach, is who we are going to be playing against Sunday with the Bengals. Your DB's coach in Miami was Lou Anarumo. Yeah. And he is the defensive coordinator doing a fantastic job with the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you know about Lou Anarumo? And maybe give some thoughts to the Texans fan base that is trying to get away with something to see maybe they could pull a W out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, so Lou's just a smart guy. I played against him when I was at Ohio State. He was a D coordinator at Purdue. Wow. And then when I was in Miami, he was my DB coach, and I was just so hoping for him to get a D coordinator job, or maybe even a head coaching job. Just the type of coach he is. I mean, he's gonna try to take away the windows for CJ to throw. He's gonna play some coverage, rely on that defensive line to try to get pressure up front. He's not gonna blitz too much. He's gonna try to play it smart. He's likely gonna have something for first half, and then maybe something to change up for the second half. But his biggest thing is really going to try to hold the skies, play coverage, and really close those windows for CJ, and rely on that defensive line to get home.
Great insight. I want to take you back to the draft process of CJ Stroud. The S2 scores and that whole conversation were very loud with CJ Stroud. And, to the point where They said that his low scores were reason for him not to be taken high into, high in the first round. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I honestly felt like somebody was trying to get him to drop in the draft. I don't know. It was a weird situation because it went from CJ could likely be the number 1 overall pick, but it may be Bryce Young, but CJ could be the number 1 overall pick, to literally every other quarterback expected to go before him. And I'm like, nothing has changed. You know what I'm saying? Like, there hadn't been nothing. The football was over. There wasn't nothing going on. They started coming out with reports about him missing Manning camp. And then the test score. So I hadn't heard of that test before before this most recent.
Yeah, us either.
I had never heard of it before. I think it's just one of those extra. They try to measure everything they can, right? But I didn't understand what was happening. And honestly, a lot of the reports coming out, it made it seem like the Texans weren't interested in him at all. So I didn't know. Like, I just started to kind of I really started to make jokes about it, right? Because none of it made any sense. It still doesn't make any sense. And I think the Panthers are kicking themselves for really not picking a guy who actually I thought best fit the coach and what he wants to do. So yeah, I don't know what all that stuff is about, man. I'm glad he said what he said. CJ is always very transparent. He said, "I don't take tests. I'm not good at tests. I don't take tests. I play football." Right. And I thought that was well put.
Yeah, that the whole pre-draft chatter around CJ Stroud leading up to April was crazy. It definitely felt like, and this is coming from the Pat McAfee show, but the conspiracy theories they have as to who it could have been, and one of them being the Tennessee Titans. So it could have been the Tennessee Titans, who were the Indianapolis Colts, excuse me. They were third with Anthony Richardson. And hell, it could have been the Titans. Who knows? Maybe they trade up to go get him. Who knows? They ended up still taking a quarterback, which fell later for them in Will Levis. But they had it where the Colts, where this team may be throwing all the garbage on CJ Stroud to hope that he could fall to a Shane Steichen in Indianapolis. Or then you really put on the tinfoil hat and said maybe it was the Texans all along, so the Panthers don't take CJ Stroud. Because it, like, to your credit, it made so much sense that Frank Reich, his style of play, his quarterbacks that he has played with or has had coached under, like CJ Stroud fit that mold. And I'm here talking about all the rookie quarterbacks. I know you have the Ohio State bias, but it's very nice to have when you're on a Texans podcast. At the end of the day, let's take a look into the future. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. A lot of the people are talking, man, the AFC South could be something like a dogfight going into the future.
Yeah.
What do you think about the future of this AFC South, actually?
The future of the AFC South?
Yeah, with their quarterbacks as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm buying this dogfight based on the quarterbacks. I think just from the rookie standpoint, I think I always thought CJ had the highest floor. Like, say he didn't continue to improve and get better and better, just as from a base level compared to a Bryce Young, who was a smaller guy who's going to have to figure out how do I do this in the NFL, because it's not going to look the same when I get the ball. Anthony Richardson, it's a guy I talked to while he was still in college early in the season after he had a few great games. He's a guy that has the talent, the physical tools, bigger than Justin Fields, but similar to Justin Fields, he has the physical tools, but he doesn't have the processing ability right now of a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, or the accuracy of CJ. So I think he has work to do. We say high ceiling, but we base it off athleticism, right? Sometimes we got to look at where they're already at from a ability to process and deliver the ball, and if they can get even better, I mean, what was Tom Brady's ceiling, right? 20 years of Hall of Fame level play. So, but in terms of the division, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. I know the Texans got a quarterback that could probably play football for the next decade or more. They got a great young coach, defensive-minded coach, who is likely going to continue to build a good, solid defense. And I think they're well positioned into the future. I can't necessarily speak for all the teams. I haven't watched a ton of NFL football, but I do like what the Texans have going for them.
Yeah, and just one for me. I want to ask you your thoughts on our new head coach, D'Amico Ryans. How do you think he's done so far this season, and your reaction to when the Houston Texans hired him?
Yeah, I was excited when they hired him. I was excited when they hired him. I thought it was the right hire. I think he's going to be a great leader for this team, and I think he's way ahead of schedule as well because of CJ. So I honestly thought next year was going to be the year where they looked like they could look like this. Thought CJ needed 1 year to kind of get a feel for it. I thought he was going to be a solid rookie quarterback when you say, oh, he's going to be a really good player. But I thought it was going to take a year for him to figure it out. I think they kind of hit the ground running. And yeah, I also didn't expect the Texans to make all of these right decisions, man. I didn't expect them to consistent. They made the coaching hire. So they let go of Lovie Smith. He won the last game of the season. I'm like, they may not be able to get the quarterback they want. Then they made the coaching hire, and I'm like, man, that's a good hire. And then all the stuff came out about CJ Texas not being interested. I'm like, yeah, there they go. They're just gonna shoot themselves in the foot again. Mm-hmm. And then they drafted CJ. They brought in a young receiver as well. And I'm like, man, they are making just the right moves consistently. And that's what it takes, for real. That's what it takes when it comes down to it. Just consistently hitting and making the right decisions, and having the right leader. And the age, like just the young players and the young coach. I mean, they just got their foundation built, so they're in a good spot.
You're a former cornerback, Chimdi. I gotta ask you, Derek Stingley Jr. had been dealing with a hamstring injury for close to 8 weeks now. And what do you have? And I'm sure you've probably had a hamstring injury, know about it pretty well. Why would a hamstring injury, to just give some knowledge to some of the people that have been asking why he's been out so long, why would you think a hamstring injury would lead to 8 weeks?
So let me give you some context. So the hamstring injury is why I went on IR my rookie year.
Yes.
And a hamstring injury is why I is what ended my career as well. I had it got really serious. My hamstring tendon tore off the bone, kind of rolled up in the back of my leg, and I just I said, you know what, I'm done. But the challenge with a hamstring is that when you tear the hamstring, when it heals, it's just like scar tissue. It's like really rough muscle. It's almost like a scab. It's like a scab. And the challenge is when it heals, when you think you're good, you almost got to wait 2 more weeks. Because once you start playing again, it's almost like that scab pulls off, and now you got a fresh hamstring injury again. So then you get a setback. So usually when it takes a long time to heal, it means you try to come back. You try to run on it. You try to do something thinking that, I'm progressing towards playing. Then you have a setback. And now you got to start the timeline all, the timeline all over again. So, the hamstring is one of the worst things because your entire body everything feels good, right? And you may even feel like I could run full speed, and you may even be able to do it once. And then you try to go through a whole practice, and boom, you re-injure it. You pretty much pull that scab back off, and then now you start the clock back up. You got to wait a couple weeks and then go through the rehab process again. So I think that's what he's probably dealing with. The key is getting healthy and then waiting a couple more weeks and then coming out there and playing. And that's always a challenge because you don't have that many weeks to wait in a football season.
Chimdi, we want to thank you so much for being a part of today's episode of Believe in the Houston Texans, former Ohio State Buckeye, former NFL cornerback. Can you let the fans in Houston know where they can find your latest work?
Yeah, so I host a podcast. Any of my Buckeye fans, Believe in Buckeye podcast with one of my former Buckeye teammates, Brian Browning. I'm also on Twitter at Chimchek, ChimChek. I'm on Instagram at Chimchek35. And yeah, man, just follow me on those platforms. I put out some other content on YouTube as well. So yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, man. Love talking about CJ. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, we will
definitely
love to
brother.
have you on more, as the legend continues to grow.
For sure.
Look, one last thing from you. I saw, I was reading. I did my research. I got to do my research. You just mentioned your teammate, Mr. Browning, former tight end from the Ohio State Buckeyes. Look, man, I heard y'all got a little barbecue thing.
Yeah.
Do y'all still have that?
Yeah. So we don't anymore. So it's still going. So if you're ever in Columbus, Ohio, the Pit Barbecue Grill in Columbus, me and Bryant kind of sold out of our share of it. But initially, yeah, it started with me, Brian, and two other guys that I was friends with in the Columbus, Ohio area. We started a barbecue back in 2016, and just recently, kind of moved on to do some other things. But y'all got good barbecue down there in Texas, man.
Oh, come on,
a little bit.
Come on.
That's the place. So we try to keep up here in Ohio. Try to match that same energy that y'all got down there in Texas.
Yeah, man. Jail football and barbecue. That's what we got down here, man. This episode was brought to you by Bet Online, guys. Go Houston, Texans. Once again, Chimdi, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, you have a blessed rest of your night.